We are thrilled to have Mohammed with us. I want to just mention that I met Mohammed about 8 years ago in Palestine and had the honor of having this wonderful dinner with Mohammed's brother and family in a beautiful place in Nasira, and learned about the Palestinian House of Friendship, and was so inspired by the work that Mohammed and others are doing. When we got back from our trip, I wanted to continue to support, and had the wonderful luck of meeting Fran Miller, who is here with us today, who's a long-standing PHF supporter and JVP supporter, who you'll be meeting later, and Esther Farmer, and other members of the American Friends of the Palestinian House of Friendship, who have been supporting PHF for many, many years, many of whom are on this call. So I'm wonderful to see you all. Anyway, we are located, the American Friends of PHF, in New York and Connecticut, New York and Massachusetts and Vermont. And we've been fundraising every year. Usually Mohammed comes here, which is always wonderful. We get to spend time together and have fundraising events and just enjoy time together. But due to the virus, we're not able to have Mohammed in person. So hence, here we are on Zoom. So without further ado, I'm thrilled to introduce Mohammed and Esther, our cherished Esther Farmer, who is one of our JVP-NYC chapter leaders, and take it away.
Thank you. Okay, well, these conversations with movement elders, this whole series has been really amazing. And we are just so excited and thrilled that this is our first session learning from a Palestinian movement elder. For a long time, we've been very anxious to introduce Mohammed to the broader JVP community, so I'm just thrilled that that's happening. It's quite remarkable that the Palestinian House of Friendship has thrived in the midst of a soul-crushing occupation. I mean, really take that in. It's thrived in the midst of the occupation. This has been really inspiring to us, particularly since Trump's been elected. Mohammed has a lot to teach us about how to work under impossible conditions and to keep changing and growing with whatever conditions are thrown at PHF. So often the narrative that we get in this country, it either projects Palestinians as either terrorists or as helpless victims. And both of those narratives are very dehumanizing. Mohammed's work challenges these narratives in the most powerful way imaginable. So we want to get started with hearing what he has to say about that. One of the things that you have taught us, Mohammed, is that in Palestine, you know, where children live under occupation, they and their parents are imprisoned regularly, creating environments for impossible, really traumatic conditions for children and their parents. But now what you've done and you've taught us is that creating environments for children and young people to play, to create culture and tell stories is a revolutionary act under these conditions. So can you tell us about PHF's programs and what you're doing to support young people during the coronavirus lockdown?
First of all, I want to wish you in New York. I want to wish all the American people in the States all the best and a safe life under these very hard times of the coronavirus. My heart always is beating every day when I look at the number of losses in lives all over the world, and increasing mainly in the States, and mainly in New York, the city that I love, and I love really its people. Talking about PHF, it is really a journey of resilience from the beginning of the establishment of the Palestinian House of Friendship in 1994 until now. It is also, it's very important when we want to talk about what's happening now here in Palestine and in connection to the coronavirus. I like always just to mention that for me as a person, I have been living under the lockdown, under the Israeli occupation for about 54 years. I am now turning 67 years old, and about 45 years under the lockdown, under the barriers, under the curfews, and so on. And the whole world now is not really enduring to stay maybe for 2 weeks, for 1 month, and so on. So I wanted really just to draw this picture in front of my friends in the States. As I said, the journey of the Palestinian House of Friendship started in order really to create or to help in educating people after the Oslo agreements in order just to build a Palestinian democratic society, a Palestinian democratic state. So our job at that time, it was civic education. So we tried really to reach people in Palestine in order to educate them because we were dreaming of having a democratic and an independent state. So we wanted really to elect the people whom we want, who are going to determine our future. But that dream, it was really turned down by the Israelis because they tried really to get at that time to get benefit from the time of the peace agreement. So we started really to see the Palestinian land started really to be confiscated, our water also to be stolen, and so on. So the Palestinians were really let down, and they were they found themselves being treated, and they found themselves being let down by the Israeli government and by the international community, and that led to the second Intifada. Why I am saying this so quickly? Because after 2000 and after the coming back of the Israelis into the Palestinian cities, imposing curfews, destroying the infrastructure in our cities, and so on. So we started in PHF to pay attention to other goals, and that is to pay attention to kids, pay attention to children, trying to empower them, trying to teach them, trying really to help them overcome all the stresses and the traumas that they encountered through the years of the incursion. Schools were closed at that time, curfews were imposed, and we created some of the summer camps under some of the basements of some buildings. We initiated at that time what we call public education, and so on. I want also to sum up what we have done in order really to empower our kids. We started what from the beginning. We started summer camps where we have children, mainly children who were and who are at risk from the city, from the surrounding villages, from the surrounding camps, people who are really coming from poor families, people whose parents were in the Israeli prisons and no one is taking care of them, whose economic situation is really very bad. So we wanted really to give them what we call a hope in their life. So We trained them on different levels, on the spiritual level, on the value level, on the physical levels. So in addition to the summer camps, we also initiated what we call also winter camps. For this sake also, we started a scouts group. Now we started it of about 19 girls, and now we are talking about 200. And the main job of the scouts group is really to reach the community, to help the community, to help to help the diverse society that we have in the city of Nablus. We have the Muslims, and we have the Christians, and we have the Samaritans. So this scouts group usually help in just trying to interact with these groups. For this sake, also the Palestinian House of Friendship, in cooperation with other international organizations, mainly I want to mention Skate Pal. It is a Scottish organization. We, with their help, we built a skate park in the town of Asira al-Shamaliyah. It is the first of it in Palestine. And by having a skate park, we introduced a new sport into Palestine. Now, every day before the coronavirus, every day, if people go there, you find between 50 to 70 kids are just skating. Most of them, to your surprise, are girls. And there was a slogan that the people of Asira and the kids of Asira, they raised from Asira to Tokyo, because we thought that we are going to send some of these kids into the Olympic Games, because the Olympic Commission considered skateboarding as a new sport. So we thought that under all these circumstances, under all these pressures, we want really to send a message of peace, a message of sports to all the world, and to tell the world that despite all the pressures that we are living under, whether they are economic, whether they are freedom of movement, whatever, all right, we want really to reach the international community through very great means, and that is the sports. Unfortunately, it is delayed. It could be for the good. We will make a good training, and I hope that we will be sending them in 2021. For this also, we built a music studio. So in order also to give a voice, to give a platform to the Palestinian kids, just to come and to sing and to shout and to laugh and to put the headphones on their ears. They have never practiced that. So we started really to discover new talents, either in music, either in singing. And now we are building a platform. We are building a channel of YouTube where we are going to put all these activities that Palestinian House of Friendship is doing. I am quickly just, I'm talking about 26 years now. Now let's come to the corona virus. Now these kids whom we gave all the chances to come to PHF Center and to practice reading in our very moderate and simple library, who came every Saturday into our program that we call the Cultural Saturday, or come to the studio in order just to record their talents. Now they found themselves now inside four walls in their homes with a dad and with a mom who have never maybe found time to stay with them, with the rest of the family. So all of them, they are now just under the quarantine and under this lockdown. So it is completely a new life where the kids were not really familiar to. The kid likes freedom, likes to go to the street, to play football and all of these things. But all of a sudden, and because of this unseen, unknown threat, now they found themselves inside their rooms. So you can imagine, despite all the restrictions that those people they have had with their parents, of course, because of the occupation, because of the military checkpoints. Now they have another new kind of lockdown and restrictions. So what we did, we started an initiative in the Palestinian House of Friendship, and we sent to them hundreds of packs where these bags include different items, either stationery, some stories, crayons, puzzles, chess sets. We also sent them a pamphlet talking about COVID-19, about the coronavirus that is prepared by the Ministry of Health here in Palestine. We sent them a bottle of hygiene. It was introduced to them by our volunteers, who used also to take all the safety measures, having the masks, having the gloves, and all of these things, just to give them that the matter is really very serious, and we have they have to be careful. And the feedback that we got from this initiative that we have is that we started to receive some very beautiful drawings, some beautiful pictures that these kids started to send us on our website. And one of them once called us to go and to visit them at home. We took all the precautions and we went to the house of Adam and his sister Eve. And this Adam, he is such a marvelous 9 years old boy who just reserved a corner in his house, and he took it from his mom and his dad. And he asked them, if anyone wants to enter, he must pay some kind of money that he's going to use some items in order to construct something. He constructed a robot. And every item in his house, he gave it a number. And he started really to tell us about his company. So we started now to reach the parents, that this is really, although it is really very bad to stay at home, but it is a very good time to understand the kids, to understand what they want. So we started really now to work with some social workers, with some psychiatrists, in order also to help us into how to overcome these things. What are we going to do under the Corona lockdown? We used to have summer camps and winter camps, but because of social distancing, I think it's now impossible to do it. So we are going to have what we call house camps. We are going to use technology. We are going to reach kids through technology. We are going to teach them the Palestinian dabka. We are going to teach them the Zumba. We are going just to involve them in different activities. And we are going to raise and to have a competition among these kids for the best work that they are going to have. Whether these works are going to be, let's say, works of art, whether it is going to be theatrical, songs, whatever. And this is what now we are going to have. By the way, yesterday the Palestinian Authority extended the lockdown for another month, which I want to say that's going to give us also some time in order to think about more innovative ways into how can we really evaluate our work and evaluate the work of these kids. The thing that the Palestinian PHF board, of course, we meet on online. Now we are going to initiate a project, a mask for every child in the area of Nablus. Now, people, we don't have masks, by the way. We don't have gloves. They are very, very little. I don't know why. So if we want really these kids at least to be safe, and to teach them and to tell them that, okay, you must have a mask. Okay, where are the masks? So now we are trying to have an initiative where we are going to ask people, whoever they are, just to start designing and to start preparing masks. So we hope that we can achieve this project. So my friends, you see that now the Palestinian House of Friendship is now really trying to develop its ways of reaching the community according to the situation, according to the new pressures. And I want to say the pressures because from the beginning of our life, we have been living under pressures here under the occupation. So when you talk about occupation, you talk about being deprived from everything. But our compass is now still the Palestinian kid, investing in this kid, trying really to emancipate him or her, these kids, from all the pressures, because we think that having a healthy kid in the mind and in the body is the guarantee for us as Palestinians to challenge all the pressures, whether they are healthy pressures as the COVID-19 or the political, the economical pressures, where I'm going maybe to talk about it in another on another level.
Mohammed, you were telling us, and it's very interesting, about so many Palestinian doctors and people who are working on COVID-19. Can you just say a little bit more about the impact of the virus in Palestine in general?
Yes, it's very important now when we talk about the coronavirus and Palestine. First of all, it's very important to know that we are an evolving society. We are a society that is trying really to build its own state, but unfortunately, it is under the cover of the Israeli umbrella, under the Israeli occupation, which means that without having a very strong economy, it's very hard really to fight this this virus. What the Palestinian Authority have done, and I think they were rightly had done it by trying to have the preventive measures, social distancing, and I think that paid off. It started in Palestine in the city of Bethlehem, and there was a lockdown on that city, but also there was a lockdown on the whole Palestinian cities. So for the first month, I think that we succeeded as Palestinians into preventing a widespread of the virus. In total, now we are talking about 600 cases, about 3 to 4 deaths, and I think this is very acceptable in comparison to what's going now all over the world. But there was a problem, and that problem was connected to the Israelis, to the Israeli occupation. We have more than about 60 to 70,000 Palestinian workers who work inside the Green Line in Israel. And what happened, I think it is in March, the beginning of April, the Israelis, they let those numbers to come back because some of them used to stay there, and in Israel, I mean. So they let them to come back to the West Bank without being checked, without being tested, and without having any coordination with the Palestinian Authority. When I talk about 600 cases, about 450 of those cases were from among the Palestinian workers who came from Israel. So that was really one of the main threats, and it is still, because of the current economic situation. First of all, let me say that we don't have an independent economy. We rely on everything, unfortunately, on Israel. We have very little economies. We are trying our best to build our economies. But because of dividing the Palestinian land into A area, B area, and C area, so there is no land where you can start your projects. The Israelis now are just controlling about 62.5 of the land in the West Bank that is called the Area C, and now they are talking about annexing it, of course, to Israel with the help of the White House, with the Trump administration. All right, so we don't have an economy in order to compensate these workers. So this is one of the challenges now that we are facing, and the Palestinian Authority now is facing, by telling people stay at home, by telling these workers who just live on day-to-day life. They don't have the authority, don't have the trillions or the billions or even the millions of dollars in order to support them. Now, before the coronavirus, the unemployment in the West Bank, it was about 32%. Now it jumped over 50. In Gaza now it is 72. So you can imagine now how the coronavirus now is imposing itself. But the people, they understand the danger and the threat from this virus, and they know that our system, our health system, is not that advanced system, but we have very good doctors here. We don't have maybe the equipments that other nations, like in Europe, like in the States, or in South Korea or in Japan, we don't have them. So most of the work, and PHF also is trying also to do its job into, as I said, a mask for every child. And if we can have a mask for every elder, we will be doing that. So I think educating our people, trying to tell them about the danger and the future danger if we do not really abide to the regulations, to the rules, we are going really to face real and serious problems. So I think this coming month is really very crucial, and some works, they went back now to work, but with some social distancing and taking certain precautions. And the good thing that I learned today from the Palestinian Authority, that they are going to put some kind of fines for people who are not going really to abide. And the Palestinian Authority said it clearly, that this is the only weapon that we have. It is just to take preventive measures. And yes, I think this is also the job that we are going to help in. I mean the PHF. I don't hear you.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, Esther?
Oh, can you hear me now?
I hear you, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we in JVP have been inspired by the Great March of Return in Gaza. Can you talk to us a little about the state of resistance and the fight back in the West Bank in Palestine to Israel's policies, and maybe speak a little about what's happening with the threat of annexation and the change since Trump's been in office. There's no longer even the pretense of two states. So what is happening with that?
Yeah, this is really a very important questions. What can we do? I think, yes, we as Palestinians, from the beginning of our history, we tried all peaceful ways to achieve our goals. And one of the main proofs for that is that from 1995 until now, we are talking about now 20 years, 25 years, 26 years after the Oslo Accord or Oslo Agreement. The Palestinians were just resorting to negotiation. And this is what we think that should be the way to achieve that. But unfortunately, we are talking now about a very extreme government, right government now in Israel. I think we are not working for the sake of peace, unfortunately. It's not only for the sake of peace of Palestinians, but I want to say something really, maybe it looks like strange. I think they are not working for the sake of the Israelis themselves, for the Jews of themselves, who were friends always with the Arabs and Muslims throughout histories. So what is happening now is trying really to bury peace. And I think all the actions that Netanyahu, as a politician, as a corrupt politician, is taking only for the sake of himself, for his party, for an electoral goals, not for the future of the kids of Israel. So unfortunately, we are not having statesmen in Israel. We have just politicians. We have these politicians who are trying just to achieve their own goals. What are we left with? I think we are, we don't have the power. We don't have tanks. We don't have all these things really to fight. So what we are now trying really is to empower ourselves, is to empower our community, is to empower our kids by to believe in their land, to believe in their culture, to believe in their values, and to believe that there must be one day a state for them, to believe that one day will come when they are free, that they can move everywhere, they can reach the sea. I think it's really amazing. You can talk about maybe 20%, 30% of the Palestinians, they have never seen a sea. They don't know. Maybe they know that on a map, but they have never put their legs on the shore. There are certain important, of course, initiative that there are some businesses, they are trying really to improve their products in order to be away from the products that are produced in the Israeli settlements. Settlements are the main threat. They are damaging all the image of peace, and they are damaging the two states solution that people once thought that it could be the lasting peace. But I said it 10 years ago, that dream of having this solution, it was completely destroyed. And now I think there is, unfortunately, it is impossible, just because you are talking about that thousands of settlers confiscating most of the land. We are left with less than 30% of the area of the West Bank. Palestinians, they are trying to attract the attention of the international community. My dears, we have around 4,500 Palestinian prisoners in the Israeli prisons. We have 425 prisoners from among women and kids who are below 18 years old. So people here, they tried their best to go and to have sit-ins, either in the Red Cross centers, or sometimes they go to the military checkpoints, trying to show their resistance, to show their refusal of the occupation. The major sector that is now also affected by the present situation are the Palestinian farmers. The Palestinian farmers are every day are threatened by the settlers. Every day we have uprooting of olive trees. Every day we have cutting of olive trees. And the olive tree, it is the symbol of peace. It's not only a symbol of peace for Palestinians. It is a symbol of peace for humanity at the time of the Noah. And now you see, yes, unfortunately, I'm talking about them as settlers who have their political agendas supported by the Zionist movement. All right, they are just trying, yes, to implement certain agendas. Okay, what is the crime of hundreds or thousands of olive trees to be cut? And at the time of the cultivation of the olive harvest, usually they go to the groves and to the fields, and they take this. So I think the most important thing now is how can we empower? How can we empower the farmers? How can we help them reaching their land? How can we help them opening roads in order to reach their lands, despite the danger of being shot? There is a village that is called Borin. It is near to Nablus, and there is a settlement that is called Bracha at the top of the Gerizim mountain. The settlers from that settlement, almost every day, they attack the people, trying to intimidate them, trying to oblige them to leave their countries. There was a woman who was called the guard of the mountain, Harisatul Jabal in Arabic, because she was living alone and she was intimidated several times in order to leave her house at the top of the mountain, because they wanted that top of the mountain. Unfortunately, she passed away just 6 months ago. So there was many stories that the Palestinians are trying to defend their land. My friends, here we are talking about that the Palestinians, despite now the coronavirus, but at the same time, I'll tell you about a story that happened on Za'atara checkpoint, where the settlers used to come under the protection of the Israeli soldiers. And they look, what I'm going to say, some of them, they spit on their hands and they put their hands on the hand of the door of the Palestinian cars. So when you are going to catch it, of course, maybe they are infected with the corona or not. But this is just to show or to tell them that they could transmit something horrible to them. So it reached to this point that the Palestinians are subjected to these kinds of intimidation and pressure. So we have a mixture. And you can imagine that the Palestinians now, they are fighting on different fronts. Their existence, their land, their water, their health. They don't have all the means and all the equipments. Let me tell you, most of the families are now separated. Many, if I want to talk about my family, my wife now is in the States. I have a son in Cyprus. I have one of my daughters in Turkey, where I'm not going to have them. So you can imagine the stresses that we live under, despite, of course, the pressure. So I think, yes, there is this kind of immunity we have. I'm not saying that we are just fed up. We are just become tired. No, on the contrary, we think that it is the time really just to find new ways to keep us going on, and to fight for our rights, for having a better life, a peaceful life.
Thank you, Mohammed. Some of these stories are so enraging. When Mohammed was in New York last time, we went to Coney Island, and we were playing in the water like children. It was such a beautiful thing. And then when Mohammed was telling us that, they can see the water from their houses, but they're not allowed to go, it's only for the Israelis, it was just so infuriating. And he was afraid to even tell his wife, because, you could feel jealous by not having the opportunities to do the same thing. It's just really, the stories really pinpoint what daily life is like.
By the way, she's in Milwaukee. She can go to Michigan Lake.
That's right. She's in the States,
okay.
Right? Many of us in JVP have been involved in what we call the abolitionist movement, the abolition of prisons altogether. And you, of course, have been in prisons more than once, many times, and your son as well, which had a very big impact, a traumatic impact on your family. Can you talk a little, we have this expression here, free all prisoners from Puerto Rico to Palestine, from Rikers Island, which was the biggest jail in New York, to Palestine. Can you speak about this issue a little bit?
Well, I think it's, here in Palestine, maybe it is a very ordinary, a very normal way to talk about being in an Israeli prison, because statistics show that more than 60% of the Palestinians from the 1967 until now have experienced an Israeli prison, either as a detainee or being sentenced or so. So it is very, very normal. And it seems that there is a strategy from the Israeli occupation, mainly to target the Palestinian kids, in order to humiliate them, in order to suppress them, in order just to use them, whatever. But at the end, it is a matter of trying really to suppress the Palestinian hope, the Palestinian looking for the future, telling them that it is impossible really to build your own state, and if you want really to fight for having a state, it's going really to be a very dangerous way. It should go through the Israeli prisons. You are right. Yes, I have experienced that. I have never been charged. I was detained by the Israelis for 15 times. 15 times throughout the 54 years that I have spent under the Israeli occupation, and I am still. So before I got married, and after I got married and I had my child, the first child, I'll still remember the first imprisonment when she came to visit me with my wife, and she tried with her very little fingers, she tried really to open the barbed fence that divides me from her, because she wanted just to come to me, to hug me, and so on. So I still remember that happened in 1982. You can imagine that. It is still engraved in my mind. And of course, most of the accusations, maybe you will find them really very silly. So if you are very active, let's say in a teachers union, you are subjected to be taken, interrogated, and put in prison. If you are active in a students union, it is also the same. If you feel that you are reciting a Palestinian national song, also that could be a very good reason to be taken to the Israeli prisons. But believe me, I won't always, just because there are certain good stories from these bad experiences. Of course, the prison, the occupation, the barriers, all of these are very, very, very bad things, of course. And I wish no one go through them. But when you are there, you have to really to be creative and to prove that you are a human being, to prove that you are an equal, even if not more than your guard who has a rifle and try to intimidate you. I still remember when many of the university teachers from Najah University were taken to Kat Seout. It is an Israeli prison in the desert of Negev, very close to Sinai desert. So we've been taken there as administrative prisoners. And I still remember that also we found there more than 150 university students. So we thought that, okay, so we have the place, we are the teachers, we were about 11 to 12, and we have students. So let's start teaching them there. And we started teaching them there. Okay, I taught English, there were political science, there was people who were talking, specialized in geography, others in other, and we just converted our prison at that time into a university. And we contacted our university, and they considered that even the exams, we did exams, some of the prisoners passed, others they failed. But the university, they considered the credit hours that we recommended to them. I learned a little bit Hebrew in the prison. I was able just to read Haaretz, and this is I did while I was in prison. And so many, of course, of the Palestinians have done that. So. Talking about, yes, the experience of, but what I am really now very much concerned about is now the kids. There are a good number of kids who are taken, especially in the city of Hebron. Every day, the settlers, they just detain and they humiliate the kids by beating them, by intimidating them. You see sometimes more than 10 to 15 Israeli soldiers just surrounding a kid who's no more than 10 years old. My friends, I think this is not a Palestinian case. My friends, I think this is an international case. It is a matter now of solidarity. It is a matter of that now trying really to save Israel from itself, just because this should not be done by them to us. They have experienced very hard times in their life, and we are experiencing now the same from them. It shouldn't be so. On the contrary, they should be the supporters of our independence, having our rights, not being in confinements, in prisons. This is really very important. And my message to you, friends, now in the JVP, and to the American people, and to the international community, I'll tell you something. People, they are talking about the Europeans who are talking about that they are democratic countries, about America, who tried just to sell its democracy. Here, people, they are talking about them that they are just hypocritic people. They are just looking at laws on double standards, and they are looking about human rights on double standards. When Palestinian kids are killed, even when Rachel Corrie, she's an American volunteer who was killed by a bulldozer in Gaza, no one talked even about her. All right, we still remember her. Many unarmed Palestinians in Gaza. One of them, he had no legs, just he was raising the Palestinian flag. He was shot dead. These stories are incredible, are impossible. They are not only touching us, they are touching the international community. They are not touching the international heart.
You know, I'm always amazed at your capacity to take something that's so horrible and turn it into something else. You know, we have an expression, we were joking about idioms, you know, English idioms, but, you know, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. Well, you have developed that into an art form. You're in prison and you create universities, and, you know, Oslo fails and you know, turn on a dime and decide to do something else with young people and develop them, or even their capacity to be able to play as human beings. It's very remarkable and inspiring for us. You know, you and other Palestinian partners have told us that the most important thing that we can do is to work on U.S. policy and change U.S. policy towards Israel-Palestine, because they couldn't exist without money from the United States. So we've been very focused on doing that, and we've been building, as you know, and it's very exciting what JVP has been able to do. You know, 15 years ago, you couldn't get 10 Jews in the room to be pro-Palestine, and now we have thousands and thousands, so it's wonderful. And the narrative is changing, and we're very proud of that. I know you mentioned to us that Bernie Sanders was quite popular in Palestine. It's interesting. At this point in our growth in JVP, we were wondering how you felt, and would it be important for us to build more ties at this point directly with folks in Palestine, letting people know in Palestine about what JVP is doing here, that there are changes afoot in the Jewish community, and how do you think we can do that to build more ties with Palestinians directly?
I think it's very important, you need to believe that it is, let's say, it is a Jewish interest, it is an Israeli interest, having peace, having a Palestinian state, maybe before it is a Palestinian interest. I think history just taught us that many occupiers came to this land and they left this land. So your work, I think it should be just to enlighten, to open the eyes of the Israelis here, that their best and their future is to support having a Palestinian state, to build good relationships with the Palestinians. I think the international community, the United States, Britain, mainly Britain, the Europeans, I think they have betrayed the Palestinians. Maybe we had certain chances, but at that time, I think maybe, I don't know whether we should have taken certain UN resolutions and accepted them. And if we had accepted them, would that have changed the present situation? But what I think is that what is going on here is Israel is building an apartheid state, very similar to South Africa. And I think the first people who should defy, who should stop, who should really fight against reaching this point are the Jews themselves first, are the Jews themselves in America and in Europe. Now talking about the Americans, and I'm not talking here, I'm talking about the American, let's say, officials. I'm talking about the White House administration. I think also, unfortunately, it encouraged the Israelis. It encouraged the right parties in Israel just to go to the extreme and to make really achieving peace far away from the area. No one really knows what will happen after 10 years, 20 years, 50 years from now. But we are sure that situation will not continue like this. It is now the job of people like us to work hard, not to leave, determining the future of the area, the future of the kids to these people. And I don't know how could this happen, but I think if there are some mutual initiatives, programs trying to build a front internationally, and maybe let's take this pandemic as an excuse that this pandemic, it is now threatening the whole world. Borders are not very important to it. And even the aircraft carriers are affected, although they are not very close to the land. So I think now the powers who do believe in justice, who do believe in freedom, who do believe in that people must live freely, who do believe in childhood. For me, childhood is the most important word, because we should really prepare for them, build for them a peaceful life. So this is really something very important. Going back to Bernie Sanders, that brings me also to the promise of George Bush, who said, after 5 years of Oslo Agreement, there will be a Palestinian state. There was not a Palestinian state after 5 years. On the contrary, with the support of the American administration at that time, the Israelis came back to the Palestinian cities, and in 2000, 2001, and they damaged everything. There was an election in 2005, and Jimmy Carter was here as a president. And he said that it was really a very transparent election. Okay, Hamas at that time succeeded or won overwhelmingly. It was a democratic election at that time. Israel, the United States, the Europeans could have had channels with that government, and I think they were ready at that time. So we could have had really overcome many problems. But the whole world turned its back to that elections. And what are we left now with? We are left with a division, unfortunately, and we are suffering now. We still. Gaza is alone. No one is paying attention to Gaza. Just imagine, for more than 12, 13 years, there is a besiege around Gaza. People are really there. They don't have healthy water, pure water to drink. They don't have it. No one is paying attention to that. And people blame them at the end. It is happening also here in the West Bank. You see, there is the wall. All the people in the world, they were very jubilant. They were very happy when the Berlin Wall was demolished. I don't know why the people in America and the people in Europe and others, I don't know why they are keeping silent about the wall that is built in the Palestinian land. I think we don't only need just condemnation. I think we need actions. And this is why, again, I find that, yes, sometimes we don't trust, we don't believe in what these democracies who are trying really to sell democracies, yes, we don't believe in them. This is really, again, very bizarre, and this is really very, very strange. But what I am really very confident of is that what I see in the eyes of the Palestinian kids, in the Palestinian people, the Palestinian farmers who are taking care of their land, we are teaching our kids the oral stories of our people. We are teaching how to love their land, how to love the other, and how we need to be very hopeful for the future.
Thank you. Wow. Okay, we're going to turn this over to Fran. I'm sorry. We're going to turn this over to Fran to take questions. So please put in the chat your questions so we can have some back and forth. Thank you.
So I'm going to just take one of the questions. I think Lois had a question early on, Mohammed, asking how many children and families do you plan to reach with your COVID-19 outreach program?
As I said, for the house camps, we are trying to target about 350, but for 350 kids. But when we are talking about masks, we are trying to talk about thousands of kids, a mask for every kid. But when we talk about the house camps, we are thinking of this number, 350.
Great, thank you. Let's see. We have another question here. Sorry, for a while, you said that others would support one state where everyone had equal rights. Is this a popular view in Palestine now?
Let me say that the two-state solution is not existing on the ground because of the big number of settlements and the big number of settlers now. Talking about this number of settlers staying in the West Bank, or is there any vision of removing them into Israel? I think it's going really now to be very, very difficult. So yes, so many people are now thinking of, okay, let's go to historical Palestine, having one state where both Palestinians and Israelis, Muslims, Jews, Arabs, Druze, all the ethnic groups, they can live equally and they can practice their rights equally. Yes, this could be the only left solution. Although maybe it's not that easy, maybe for the majority, maybe in Israel, but there is no option. There is no chance now for building a Palestinian state in the West Bank and Gaza, where we have a sovereignty of land and a unity of the land and all of these things.
Thank you for that. There's another question here from Judith Simon. She says, when I think of Israel and especially treatment of Palestinians, I feel deep anger. How are you and Palestinians able to deal with this as you confront it every day and everywhere?
Let me be very frank. Every Palestinian now in the West Bank and Gaza is facing a certain level of trauma. I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about people whom I know, just because to live under the occupation, to live under the humiliation when you cross the military checkpoints, when you are stopped, when you are just being treated badly. Sometimes you are stopped for hours for no reason. Sometimes you see people in front of you being taken from their cars and beaten. When they come into your house, when they just damage your furniture, when they take your kids and so on. All of these things, yes, they left us with many scars inside ourselves, in our memories, in our minds. We are always worried about the future of our kids, about the present of our kids, about the future of our kids, about the future of our land. Just imagine that you don't know, okay, I am now a grandfather. I'm not only thinking about my kids, I'm thinking about my grandkids also. Okay, what kind of future is waiting for them? Are they going to pass the same experiences that I have passed? Before my father died, his wish was, I hope that you will never go through what we have gone. I am repeating it now. I hope that our kids and our grandkids are not going really to have what we had.
Let me read this question to you, Mohammed. This is from Elena. Mohammed, I so deeply admire your philosophy, and I'm so grateful to hear these vivid stories. This conversation is such a gift. The question is, you talked about using the pandemic as an excuse or an opportunity. It's such a global shock that it will be used both as an excuse or opportunity for increased oppression, authoritarianism, and as an opportunity to reorganize ourselves around global solidarity, health, and wellness. We feel the tension between these two responses everywhere right now, here in the States. Certainly, we worry about how the horrific Israeli government is using the pandemic, and you illustrated some disgusting examples of this. Do you also see opportunities the pandemic opens up that we could chase? For instance, if there were ever a time that the blockade on Gaza were to be lifted, do you think it could be now? Should we be crying out louder than ever for it? Or do you think there are other openings we should be looking at and organizing around?
Thank you for this question. Yeah, it's really amazing. It's I think the blockade should have been lifted years ago. It shouldn't have been imposed on Gaza on the first run or in the first time. So for sure now, yes, the pandemic, it is now an international problem. It is a universal problem, a global problem. And because we have, as humans, we have really to learn about the weaknesses that brought these devastating results on us from this unseen enemy, from this virus to humanity. The most people who are affected, they are the marginal people. They are the poor people. In the States, they are the Black people. This is what's going on. So this is just to show that these powers or these people, they have really now to wake up and really to come together in a certain kind of solidarity in how we can really stop this deterioration in the future of this globe. Many reports show that when there is these lockdowns, the environment become better. Animals started really to wander in the streets of some cities because they started to feel safe and so on. Which means that human beings, they are practicing sometimes very bad things, very horrifying things. So I think it's the time on the level of the grassroots, and I think it's the responsibility of people also to send messages to the political leaders, to the leaders of the world. And believe me, that this topic of the COVID-19 and the coronavirus is going to be an issue in the coming elections in every country, because I think this pandemic, it tested the greediness, the readiness of the governments, and on different levels, and many of them proved failures. So I think yes, it is now the time for people to raise their voice and to bring certain things together and really to communicate. Since technology is now available, I think one experience, one successful experience could be taken as an example in other countries. So talking about mutual, or talking about discussing things together like this with other people, with other groups, with other experiences from different parts of the world, I think that will help in bringing something new. And we have to look. Maybe, I don't know, I don't have what should that be? But I think we have to talk about international community, international people, international citizenship. All right, I think this is really very important, because without this solidarity, we are going to lose. Sometimes, people sometimes they are going really to diminish and to lose their existence. So it is an international interest.
I want to thank you for coming to the end of this. Thank you so much, Mohammed, and everybody for joining us. You are, it's always very inspirational for me, and I know others, when you talk about internationalism, and you are a true internationalist. It's very inspiring. Thank you all for joining. It's very sobering and also very inspirational at the same time. We're going to have the chat open for a while, and we're saving the chat, so please give if you haven't given already. And don't forget, we do this every week, conversations with movement elders, and next week our very own Shotzi Weisberger is going to be presenting on death and dying. a very creative and interesting workshop. So please join us for that. And thank you. Thank you again, Mohammed.
Thank you.